Shalom, more praise to Yahweh Simeon, the Apostle GMS. This is Amel Allah coming next in the video. You know, we're still in this video about Simeon Levi. I know these videos got a lot of parts. I know most brothers not gonna watch all of these parts. It's just what it is. But people gonna watch it, and ones who gonna watch it. And like I said to the Spirit of Yahweh Simeon, I'm gonna do another video, and I'm basically boil this thing down to probably like a little 30-minute video with some music in the background, breaking down stuff verse by verse and giving you some history, so you can basically just breeze through it. But that's so Genesis, still in Genesis 49:6, right? Oh, my soul, come not down into their secret, unto the assembly mine honor, be not thou united. So we're still in that be not thou united, right? So let's give some history. A thing that been going on in Haiti and Dominican Republic. This is from Center for Migration Studies. The Dominican Republic revoked citizenship of Dominican-born children of unauthorized immigrants. Generations of persons of Haitian descent born in the Dominican Republic have faced administrative and legal barriers to Dominican citizenship, despite the birthright citizenship provisions of the Dominican Constitution. Let's look at that real quick. This is from Wikipedia, Dominican Republic nationality law, right? To the we see is that's highlighted. Nationality in the Dominican Republic is typically obtained either on the principle of jus soli, which is Latin for right by soil, i.e. by birth in the Dominican Republic, or under the rules of jus sanguinis, i.e. by birth abroad to a parent with Dominican nationality. Let's look at the word jus soli. Jus soli. A rule of law that a child's citizenship is determined by his or her place of birth. Etymology, Latin, right of the soil. So that's what it means. Okay, back here. It says, on September, and that's located in the Dominican Constitution. On September 26, 2013, the Constitutional Court of the Dominican Republic issued a ruling to revoke the citizenship of the children of unauthorized migrants born in the Dominican Republic since 1929. The ruling held that Haitians who migrated to work on Dominican sugar plantations and in other labor sectors were in transit, and therefore their children were not entitled to citizenship. What does that mean, in transit? Here it goes. In 2013, the tribunal judges ruled that Haitian immigrants who had entered the country to work in sugar fields were only temporary visitors, regardless of the amount of time they had lived and worked in the country. As people in transit, their children were not eligible for birthright citizenship. In other words, they were just in transit. They were like temporary visitors, despite how long they lived there. Now check this out. See right here, it says who were born since 1929. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So this is 2013, and they're born 1929. That's 84 years earlier. They kicking them out. They don't want this here, and they're not citizens. And they may have been there since 1929. Prior to 2010, the Dominican Constitution excluded the citizenship the children born to diplomats or parents in transit for a period of 10 days or less, though the law conferred citizenship on the children of residents whose time in the country exceeded the 10-day period. Civil registry officers engaged in widespread ad hoc denial of official birth certificates to thousands of Dominican-born children of Haitian parents who they deemed to be in transit. What does that word ad hoc mean? Let's see. Ad hoc web search. When necessary or needed. Created or done for a particular purpose as necessary. So it engaged in widespread ad hoc denial, when necessary, of official birth certificates. So they felt it was necessary to dismiss that. Dismiss the official birth certificates of these Dominican-born children of Haitian parents. The recognition of Dominican nationality is based upon the possession of an official birth certificate issued by the civil registry. A birth certificate is a prerequisite, meaning something that's required beforehand, to obtaining a national identity card upon reaching adulthood, which triggers multiple civil, political, social, and economic rights, as well as the birth registration of one's children. The inability to acquire nationality has been passed from Dominican-born parents of Haitian descent to their children over decades prior to the court's ruling. Let's see. Read a little bit more. The Constitutional Court ruling follows the legal codification of discriminatory practices over the past decade that has rendered thousands of Dominicans of Haitian descent effectively stateless. In 2004, the General Law on Migration expanded the in-transit exception to apply to all non-residents, broadly defined to include the children of tourists, temporary workers, individuals, the expired residency status, unauthorized migrants, and Haitian residents of the Dominican-Haitian border. So then they expanded it to everybody. They rendered thousands of Haitians to be basically stateless. You're not a child of this, you're not a citizen of this land. And then they expanded it. They expanded it in transit for the other groups of people. A 2008 report by the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination identified widespread retroactive application of the migration law to deny Dominicans of Haitian descent access to official identity documents despite being born decades before its passage. So the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, they identified widespread retroactive application. Retroactive is what? Something that happens after the fact. Retroactive, extending in scope or effect to a prior time or to conditions that existed or originated in the past. So basically they realized they came up with this whole thing about getting rid of them in transit in 2013, but they made it retroactive, meaning they said we're going to use this to apply to people that happened before this was even passed, before this ruling was even passed. So we're going to go all, even though they started in 2013, they said we're going to go all the way back to people born in 1929. It's like the grandfather clause. Let's go to that real quick. Grandfather clause, a clause exempting certain classes of people or things from the requirements of a piece of legislation affecting their previous rights, privileges, or practices. Let me give you a better example right here. The infamous grandfather clause, which restricted voting rights to men who were allowed to vote or whose male ancestors were allowed to vote. In other words, it restricted voting rights from people who were allowed to vote. It says, keep reading. Before 1687 was also a popular method of disenfranchising African American men, Israelite men, because they were not allowed to vote before the 15th Amendment was ratified. In other words, if your grandfather couldn't vote, you couldn't vote. And obviously, most of their grandfathers could not vote due to the fact that their grandfathers were what? Slaves. Their grandfathers couldn't vote. Therefore, what would that mean? That would mean that you, in turn, could not vote. Okay? Let's get another. Let's see right here. A grandfather clause or legacy clause is an exemption that allows persons or entities to continue with activities or operations that were approved before the implementation of new rules, regulations, or laws. Such allowances can be permanent, temporary, or instituted with limits. So you have an idea of what it is. Okay? Because remember, most of their grandfathers were slaves. So that would therefore automatically disenfranchise them. In other words, it would prevent them from being able to have the right to vote. That's called the grandfather clause. So that's basically what they did. It's retroactive legislation. In 2010, the Dominican government removed the constitutional birthright citizenship provision and made the acquisition of citizenship dependent on one's parents' migratory status. The Constitutional Court ruling further applies retroactive treatment to Dominicans of Haitian descent born prior to the 2010 constitutional revision. It's a little bit more that I could read. I'll read one more thing. It says, the first national level survey of immigrants in the Dominican Republic found that there are 458,233 Haitian-born persons residing in the country as of 2013. However, the number of Dominican-born persons of Haitian descent is unknown. The Constitutional Court ruling stated that officials are reviewing the birth certificates of over 16,000 people born in the Dominican Republic since 1929. So they're trying to get all of them out of there, basically. We're going to review their birth certificates. The government will produce a list of individuals excluded from citizenship within 1 year who may be subject to deportation to Haiti, where they also hold no legal status. Because remember, they was born in the Dominican Republic. So if they don't have legal status in the Dominican Republic and they're getting them out of the country, then guess what that means? They also don't got a legal status in Haiti because they weren't even born there. While the ruling cannot be repealed, advocates plan to seek assistance from the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, possibly resulting in a case brought before the Inter-American Court on Human Rights. So this further goes to show you what? Be not thou united. The Most High always did something to make sure the tribe of Simeon and Levi could not unite. And here's an example. A recent article in the Journal on Migration and Human Security titled Citizen or Subordinate, Permutations of Belonging in the United States and the Dominican Republic, written by Shayna Aber and Mary Small of Jesuit Refugee Service USA, examines the debates around birthright citizenship in both countries. The article details the practices of denial and revocation of the citizenship for Dominicans of Haitian descent and the evolving legal legislations for these practices, motivated by a constriction of national identity and anti-Haitian discourse. So they're saying a lot of this stuff is motivated by anti-Haitian discourse, anti-Haitian ideologies. In the United States, proposals to revoke birthright citizenship for the children of unauthorized immigrants stand little chances of success, but have nonetheless shifted the parameters of the immigration debate. The Dreamers in the United States and youth movements in the Dominican Republic seek to broaden concepts of societal belonging and membership, which may be the most effective way to determine birthright regimes. Okay? And it says Dreamers. Okay. Okay, the Dreamers is referring to the Dream Act, which is supposed to protect the children of immigrants whose parents could be deported. So with that, I'm going to close. I'm going to say, oh, praise the how about Simeon Shah, double line, say, pause, GMS. I'm going to say shalom. I wanted to go into more on this topic. Maybe I'll touch it a little bit more on the next episode. Shalom.